I stay in my lane of the 2 to 4 units. And here's the next thing. People are like, well, I have 3 properties, so it's obviously time for me to go large multi. And I smile and I say, sweetheart, until you have 20 properties, don't talk to me about switching your strategy. 20 properties, you've barely set up a team, you've barely, figured out if you need an assistant, do you need a marketing staff, are you in-house bookkeeping, or have you hired it out? So, people jump so fast because they get bored. Yeah. I want you to be so good, so good at what you do in this lane that, you've just created your own economies of scale because you've not got distracted. Yeah. 2 to 4 units in the small residential, it's still multi.
Hello, and welcome back to the Very Real Estate Effect podcast, a show dedicated to real estate investing right here in Quebec. And yet today I have the honor and the luck to have the JV Queen, Mandy from Ontario. And I don't even know where you're based. Hi, Mandy.
Hey, Axel. Thanks for having me. This is awesome. I am about an hour and a half outside of Toronto, slightly northern Ontario.
Okay, perfect. And all I know north of Toronto is Barrie. And so I don't know if you're around there. Yeah?
I invest in Barrie. In Barrie, Aurelia, and then, but I live in Midland. So it's on Georgian Bay. It's a beautiful spot. We have a boat. That's my husband's happy place. So that's where we are.
Oh, I can understand him if the boat is the happy place. So Mandy, I'm thrilled to have you today. And you're known as the JV Queen, the Joint Venture Queen. And before we get into it, I just want to remind everyone, especially this conversation is going to be gold for a lot of you who are looking to start. You don't know really how to do it. You may have time and capital, but not the other. So listen to today. Please share this episode with a friend who could benefit from this conversation. It might be a great way to find a partner. So subscribe to the show, leave us a review, and some comments. We're booking the next episodes and guests. So if you have any questions or particular topics you'd like to hear about, please let me know, and I will do my best to address it. So, Mandy, it's a hard and heavy title, being known as the Joint Venture Queen. How did you start this way?
So the title just came to me as I was appearing on a podcast, if you would believe it. And the gentleman was like, wow, you've done so much. You're like the joint venture queen. And at first I was like, woo, like queens are like monarchs and they're, prim and proper. And that's not me. I'm like tell it how it is. Let me tell you the good, the bad, the ugly. These are the ups and the downs of the real estate. But if you want to partner with me, I'll hold your hand as we go through it. So my husband and I, we looked for years for an industry, and this is going to resonate with some people, an industry where the harder we worked, the more direct our results were. We are great employees. We were down at Tony Robbins coming back, and our bosses were like, wow, what a great thing that you did. And now you're a better employee. And we said, wait a minute, what can we go into? Enter into real estate. We are doing some great deals. And then I had these people, these investors from programs and groups that I was part of that said, hey, Mandy, the next deal you find like that, I'd love to partner with you. And I was like, well, actually, why don't you just partner with me on this one? And then somebody else would say, hey, the next deal you have, I'd love to partner. And so because we were in the flow, because we were attracting deals that met our criteria, people were attracted just because, momentum breeds momentum. And so we just started to attract people into our deals. We realized what we were running out of and where our ceiling was being hit. And we asked, what is it that partners can do to be able to blow the ceiling off of our limitations and go from there? So majority of our JVs, I'll get this up front so that you can ask me lots of questions. Majority of our JVs are on 2 to 4 units. Okay. In the residential space. So duplex, triplex, fourplexes that we went majority of the time to the A lenders. Okay. And my partners bring all the money and they qualify for the mortgage. I am not on title. We have a side joint venture agreement, and I find and negotiate the deal. I oversee the project management, the contractors, the renovations. I oversee the property management for the duration of the 5 years, making sure that anytime there's a tenant turnover, we're maximizing rents, keeping things as efficient as possible. And this is a 5-year joint venture. So at the end of the 5 years, the partners come together and we say, hey, where are you in life? Where am I in life? Where's the asset? Is it performing? And we decide, do we want to keep it and renew? Do we want to keep it and refinance? Does one partner want to buy the other out? Or do we sell the asset? So that's kind of the joint venture model, my joint venture model. There's a million ways to skin the cat.
Yeah.
But, the premises of joint ventures is you're seeking what you don't have to somebody who has what you're looking for, but that you have what they're looking for. And it's like this match made in heaven that you're able to come together to partner on an opportunity that together you wouldn't be able to do, or without each other, you wouldn't be able to do.
And without being able to do, and there's so much to unpack in what you just said. But one thing to start with is I find it's amazing the number of people who will be attracted to you, as you mentioned, because you've shown that you have the expertise to do this, but you're limited by capital or by the ability to get another mortgage, and how they'll be like, I'll do all that, but I don't know how to talk to tenants. I don't know how to renovate. I don't know how to talk to contractors. And so, as you said, it's a match made in heaven, but there's a lot of stuff that can happen in heaven. Let's be frank.
And I love that scenario. Here's an interesting thought. You've got a dentist who specializes in root canals, right? But he only has so many teeth in his own head that he's like, okay, well, now I'm the expert root canal specialist. I'm going to need to help other people who need this service because I can't do it on my own anymore. So it's not necessarily that he's run out of teeth in his own head to be able to do root canals. It's not that we've maxed out of our capitals. This isn't like, oh, great, now I can't do it on my own. Now I have to do it with a partner. We realized that the benefits of coming together, there was more people that were like, Mandy, you positioned yourself as this joint venture expert with this niche of properties. It's so much harder for me to be able to do it on my own. I might as well just partner with the expert. So it's not, when somebody's seeking a joint venture capital partner, I don't want it, Matthew McConaughey in his book called Green Lights, you don't want it to have money breath. I need money, right? And the money partners, like they jump away because they're like, whoa, I can see you coming from a mile away. And it's not that you need money. You don't have to convince somebody why to come with you. You are attracting capital by the investor and the type of deals that you are doing. And so that's really what we found is, the more expert that I became, the more that I was just attracting people to be able to say, like, hey, I've been trying this on my own for 3 to 5 years. One guy said to me, that's it. I opened up a book and it said in 2010 that I was going to build a portfolio. He and I connected in 2020. So 10 years ago, he had written this in a book and he'd taken no action. And so he said, I need to take action. And if I can't do it on my own, I'd love to partner with somebody who's an active real estate expert. Now, that gentleman to this day, he's like, what do you need? What do you need me to do, Mandy? Because whatever you say is where I'm going. Now, we make decisions together, but he certainly leans on me for the expertise of the market that I have.
Yeah. And so you mentioned that you really focus on the type of assets, so 2 to 4 units. Is that to be able to go residential?
When I look at what the money
side,
partner has, a lot of they're beautiful people. They've got, one mortgage, maybe a cottage, maybe a small rental property already. They've got a home that's almost paid off and they have great incomes. So instead of jumping to, large, I just maximized their qualification abilities. We've got executives at automotive industries. I've got retired Blue Jay players. I have, doctors and dentists and executives, like beautiful people, teachers, and they just are like, I can't sit here and maneuver this, but they have all this ability of lending. And so we just maximize the lending, and I put together like a portfolio overview of where they could go for the variety, and I hold their hand through the whole process. So 2 to 4 units really is because it maximizes my investors, and it gets us in. I also like to say that I only partner with like one other person. Now that could be brother, sister, that could be, 2 best friends, husband and wife, life partners. But I don't bring in 5 different people that don't know each other to partner on my deals. That's just my choice. And so again, for those reasons, I need this level of confidence in my partners to be able to qualify on title together, to submit all their legal documents and their income statements and have these conversations together. And so that 2 to 4 unit residential space just really allowed that quite a bit.
Yeah, and it's a more liquid market. And
A lenders, like my partners, there's really no need for B lenders. There's absolutely no need for hard money. We've done this all with A lenders. So we get good qualifications, good loan to value, the best terms that we can. And that's a reassurance to our joint venture together that we've got some of the best lending available at the time that we entered into that property.
Okay. And so often people who start with that kind of asset class, at some point they want to scale up and they want to go 6 units and above. They want to go 10, 12, 15, and so on. Let's say you have a relationship with one of those partners, after a few years they have more confidence, would you take them down that route in trying to optimize their future portfolio? Or would you stay with smaller size buildings?
So my largest joint venture partner has 7 or 8 properties with me. Now she's gone and worked with her best friend and her brother-in-law and a spouse. So the 8 properties, she keeps bringing in other people to continue to be able to grow. It's a different mindset. It's a different strategy. And what I would say, Axel, is if you're thinking about how to continue to maximize this one partner, you're missing the other 20 people that still want 2 to 4 units. So I want, active working partners to stay in their lane. Because now sometimes you can be like, well, one JV partner wants a mixed multi-residential that he can put his business in, and you get all distracted and you're like, oh, right, I'm looking at 2 to 4 units in the residential space. So it's really easy to get distracted. And now if I chose to up level, which I do, into large multi, I will offer my partners the opportunity to come with me, but I don't go there just because they want me to. No. I stay in my lane of the 2 to 4 units. And here's the next thing. People are like, well, I have 3 properties, so it's obviously time for me to go large multi. And I smile and I say, sweetheart, until you have 20 properties, don't talk to me about switching your strategy. 20 properties, you've barely set up a team, you've barely, figured out if you need an assistant, do you need a marketing staff, are you in-house bookkeeping, or have you hired it out? So I mean, people jump so fast because they get bored. I want you to be so good, so good at what you do in this lane that, you've just created your own economies of scale because you've not got distracted. 2 to 4 units in the small residential, it's still multi. I remember talking to one person one time and they said, I've got all these multis, and I'm like, awesome. What do you have? And she said, I've got 3 duplexes. Now in my head, I'm thinking when somebody said they've got multiple multis, I'm like, whoa, 10, 3 10 unit buildings. What does that look like? And then I realized that was just my creation of what multifamily was. To this lady, she's right. She had 3 multifamily apartment buildings. They were duplexes, but for her, they're multis. So that's why, the 2 to 4 unit and if you want to go to 6 because you can find residential financing and a couple lenders for 6 units and under, that's great too. But, pick that lane and just stay there.
Okay. No, that makes a lot of sense. And so many people have the shiny object syndrome of like, oh, we should do this and we should do that. And as you said, like stay in your lane And I'm even impressed by you say, like, by the time, only when you have 20 units, can you come back to me and want to diversify? Because until
20
then,
properties,
yeah,
Axel.
yeah.
20 properties, which is not even going to be 20 units. It's going to
Yeah.
be 40 to 50 to 60 units, depending on your 2, 3, or 4 units that you've got. And 20 properties for a joint venture expert, you are just starting to become the expert in the industry. And that's when you're going to be like, okay, it becomes a logistical nightmare. So here's a little bit of logistics behind my JVs. So each property has its each JV partner has their own bank account with me. So it's a joint bank account. We call it a property account. And within that property account, all the rents go in, all the mortgages come out, taxes, insurance, utilities, property management, whatever comes out of there. So it's super easy for clarity between myself and my partner, super easy for bookkeeping and tax preparation. And so for those reasons, we have a bank account per property. So if we're talking 20 properties, you're talking 20 bank accounts, okay? Yeah. We set up automatic withdrawals for as much as we can for clarity on that. I do outsource bookkeeping, but she will help my JV partners submit their corporate tax returns if they need to, or prepare their corporate tax filings, balance sheet, income and expenses for them to be able to submit to their accountant. So that's kind of another thing that I offer to my JV partners. And now you could probably increase this now, but I had a $500 limit, which meant I could spend or invest or do a repair for $500 without communicating to the JV partner. But anything over that $500, hey, we need a fridge. We can't find a used one. They're great tenants. We're going to do that new fridge. It's $1,000 plus tax and delivery. It's going to be $1,300. Are you cool with this? Yep. Boom, approved, away we go. So, it's an easy way for me to connect with my JV partners, let them know that my eyes and ears are still on this property. And it's so much more than just the purchase of the property. I want the expert partner to stand into this. And trust me, I know there are people that think, I can do what Mandy does, but they want to be finished after 6 or 9 months. This is the 5-year buy and hold. This, the expert working partner needs to be here for 5 years to oversee the management of this asset to make sure that it is still optimized in its running.
And even in the exits, people far underestimate the importance of having expertise at the exit, because it's like, well, we bought it with Mandy, we optimized it, as you said, now it's been 9 months, I don't need her anymore. No. The decisions that you're going to make 4.5 years from now are absolutely critical to the result of this venture. And I find people are just like, oh, well, I'll sell it. Okay. How? Are you going to do it on your own? Are you going to take a broker? With what numbers? How do you plan on doing it? And people underestimate that. So I completely agree with you that it's the full term. You have to look at the whole lifetime of the project.
Yeah. And, Alfonso, a great friend of both you and me, I know he's been on your show. He would say that nobody loves your ugly baby as much as you do. Okay. No property manager literally loses sleep at night if there's a vacancy in your building. They don't lose sleep. No. You are like, if they don't put somebody in there first, I'm going to have to do a cash call. Okay. So even with a property manager, the person that's managing that property manager needs to be the squeaky wheel to be like, excuse me, I'm losing sleep over here. Get that unit filled. And so, this is not just about, and I stand with such pride as I say that this is not about just put a property manager in place and think that you can be a passive investor. You're not a passive investor if you're managing the property manager. Okay, there is so many more aspects to it. You certainly hit some on the head, but your working expert partner. You're always a working partner. And I've even said this to somebody before. So what is your role now? Like, what are you going to do? Like, they think that what I do is just, you just get half the equity in this length of time for this amount of work. And, Larry and I, like this said at the beginning, what industry can the harder we work, the more direct our results? This industry, we continue to put in the hard work. And we are, we'll continue to be able to have the results of the hard work at the end of the day.
Yeah. And you've been able to establish yourself because you've gone through multiple of those deals. And now you have the confidence and you know exactly what it's like. And when you're talking to people at the beginning who've been wanting to start to invest in real estate for the last 3 years, but they never pulled the trigger, it always seems very easy. So, and I'm sure you've been asked before, like, what are, let's say, your top 3 important criteria in qualifying people that you want to partner up with? Because you have the choice. They don't. There aren't that many Mandys around.
Yeah. Okay. So I look for a passive investor. No, there will not ever be 2 cooks in my kitchen. Okay. I did that. I want to say that's the number one mistake is people like, oh, we could just do this together and I'll work and you'll work and we'll all do it. And then their idea of work and your idea of work are very different. So one criteria that I have is to be able to stand into the power of the role that they hold. And a financial partner has a lot of work to do. The qualifications, the up-to-date documents, taxes up to date, letting me know if they're in or out of the country, communication. I'm okay with the second set of eyes up, keeping me on my toes. I'm cool with that. So that's one of the things that I look for in a passive partner. Number 2, I look for financial stability. Okay. I don't want to invest. So the minimum investment when I was doing my 2 to 4 units was $100,000. This is not your last 100,000. I can't have door knocking going, excuse me, Mandy, I'm so nervous. What's going on? Mandy, I'm not sure. What's going on? Nope. So there needs to be financial stability in my JV partner for them to be able to come in. And criteria number 3, super easy. This is a get rich really slow, put in the time. If somebody comes to me and they really want, well, I have some money and I'd like to buy a property and I'd like to refinance. And then,
quick.
Whoop, whoop, whoop. I'd be like, whoa. Yeah. Oh, I'd like to retire in 5 years. I'd like to retire off the cash flow off of one asset. Sorry, I knocked and my dog thinks there's somebody at the door now.
It's okay.
So, they're like, I want to retire in 5 years. And I've kind of enjoyed my life and didn't think about retirement. And now I need income. And I was like, not from this girl, not from one asset that you're giving me $100,000. This is a get rich slow, follow the process, the market, let the market do, calmness. And so I have invested with 70-year-olds, but it's not their last 100 grand. And they're not knocking at they're like, honestly, this guy golfs, he goes on sea-doos. He just did an African safari. I mean, the guy is like living his best life. So age doesn't necessarily mean something, but the patience that a JV partner, financial partner would have is something that I look for.
Absolutely. And then as you were describing this third point, I was also thinking of, wow, how much, it's Warren Buffett that said people do business with people they like. And I know it sounds so basic, and I've talked about it multiple times on the podcast, but I've done partnerships or work with people where in the end I've been like, you know what, man? Great project. It's just too hard to work with you. And then people are like, well, what do you mean? And it's like, well, you don't call me back. The communication is difficult. You say you're going to do something and it's been 2 months and I have to follow up. It's not pleasant. And now I have more confidence and able to say that. So with your experience, to what level and to what degree do you take we have chemistry together or we work well together into account? Because it's not just 100K and you qualify. Like if I don't want to, for me, one of the thresholds is, would I invite this person at a family barbecue?
Yeah. Now I'm going to kind of stand in my power pose for you here, because I think you can kind of tell that I do have a very strong personality. A lot of people will say, I like your energy, Mandy. And I'm a real no bullshit kind of girl. And when I say these things to people, I set the stage for the type of business partnership that we're going to go into. Okay. I can have hard conversations. The tenant hasn't paid us in 6 months. I understand that we're both in discomfort. We don't understand. We're not signing up for that class to find out, well, why don't they just pay us? I don't know. I don't go there. I don't enter my brain chemistry into that kind of vibration. Okay. But let's talk about it. We're going to need to do a cash call. Let's talk about it. Are we hiring a paralegal? Am I going to self-represent? Okay. Mm-hmm. And so I believe because I set the stage early on as to the expectation that I have, or the intention of a good relationship is communication. very recently, a JV and I were trying to sell an asset, and the realtor was being wacko, okay, and the weird conversations within this email. And she's texting me on the side, like, I'm not getting good feelings about this. And I'm like, I totally agree with you. And then I made a decision within this. I was like, that's it. We're taking this property off the market. And she sends me a message and says, I 100% agree with you. So I didn't actually ask her, but we both had the spidey senses that we didn't like it. And so we just I made the decision and she supported me. Yeah. So I think there's just times too when, if you're in partnership with the right person and they make a decision, okay, it's like my brain goes, okay, how many thoughts and interactions can I have in 3 seconds? Oh my God, boom, made the decision. Okay. Yeah. And then I can justify my decision to the partners as well. But a lot of times these financial partners, they want someone to take the lead. Don't ask me what kind of fridge. You ask me if I wanted a new fridge. End of story. A decision over, right? Yeah. But if you're an indecisive person and you're like, well, what color should we paint the walls, right? And you're like, no, this is not a group decision here. Yeah. This needs to be my decision. And I'm just going to make it. That partner respects that. Yeah. And so, again, stand into those conversations. Yes, it's a gut instinct. You can tell, but then there's other times you get in and you just go, okay, I'm a big girl anyways. I got into this and I will be able to get out on the other side. Now, I've had tears. I've had, joint ventures go the wrong way. I've stepped away from deals that, the gentleman sold a lot that I had helped sever. And it was like $375,000 that he sold this property for. And I had stepped away about a year and a half earlier with no financial upset of mine. And not once did he offer me anything. You know what? I am better off not dealing with his energy that would have brought me down. So I share that with people as I keep an energy bubble around me. And when somebody tries to lower my vibration to theirs, I can say, do I choose to do that? Or do I choose to vibrate at a higher level? And sometimes stepping away from a partnership with no profit is a heck of a lot easier than staying in a relationship and having your whole aura change and all this kind of stuff. That'd only be my other thought. When back to 2 to 4 units, don't talk to me until you have 20 properties. Think about that for a second. Fine for you, Mandy. You can walk away from a deal or with no profit because you got 100. Okay. That's 1% that you're walking away from. Okay. But, if you only have one property and we're talking about the same thing, they're going to put in their heels and they're going to be like, I'm not giving up my profit. Yeah. Get 20 properties, people, because it's heck of a lot easier to make some of these decisions when one's working very well and one's not. You're able just to cut the ties and let it go. Yeah. Because you've got economies of scale and more than just one property. So, build a lot, and then you're going to learn all these, human behavior traits. I study human behavior because if you're going to be a partnership expert, then you better be able to understand how to work with people, listen, and And
to be a lot less emotional about it and just see it from, it's an investment, it's a transaction, end of story. If the numbers don't make sense, move on to the next one. But we all know people that, as you say, like, I'm not going to give up. And, and I had this conversation with someone this week negotiating a triplex. And he's like, no, we can't meet. We have a $30,000 difference. I'm like, okay, well, that's up to you. But 3 years from now, do you think you're going to kick yourself because you feel like you overpaid 30K? Probably not.
Break that down even more, Axel. 30K is only $6,000 of a down payment.
Exactly.
So now you're like, are you really, my mentor taught that to me super early on. He was like, you're worried about 10 grand. That's $2,000 out of your pocket. Yeah. And he goes, if you can't handle an extra 2 grand, so in your friend's case, an extra 6 grand, then you shouldn't be getting into that deal anyways. Right? Yeah. So being able to do that. Yeah. A lot of my partners, hear this one, I've never shaken their hand. A lot of my partners, I've never been in the same room with. Okay. A lot of my partners have never stepped foot in their assets. Yeah. So when we talk about the relationship, we're coming together for this triplex, but we're not actually coming together. I will go to the property. I will oversee the management of the property. So when you say that a joint venture specialist needs to be able to, you need to know, like, and trust you. First of all, they need to know who you are, that you're even investing in real estate. So your social presence, your presence in meetings and groups and people who are like-minded for you. Number two, they need to like you. They need to know, like you, right? That you're a good person, that you're standing behind what you say, okay? That you're staying in your lane, you're not distracted. And they need to trust you, right? And so, like, this isn't my first rodeo. I tell it as it is. Let's go. What references do you want? I've got a lot of joint venture partners who will give me references. Go and call them. And so, like, those are some of the things that you will build as you build yourself to be, an expert joint venture specialist.
Yeah. No, and it's important that you remind us that most people that you partner up with, you've actually never been in the same room as them. I mean, that's, to me, that's a strong signal of the level of professionalism that, as we said, it's purely a transaction. You do this, I do this, this is where the line is.
Yeah.
We have clear roles and responsibilities, and it's an investment, period.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I've had some of my partners that have lost children. I've had some of my partners go through divorces, cancer treatments, and diagnoses. And they will call and say, just to let you know, this is what's going on. And I said, the only thing that you don't need to worry about right now is our joint venture assets. Done. Yeah. I will not call you. They're like, we trust you. Make the decisions that need to be done. And they can live their lives. I have invested in Apple stock. I've never been down to the Apple head office. No. So, I mean, I certainly didn't meet Steve Jobs. So, there's lots of different ways to reframe why somebody would want to come in. Now, the confidence that you have in a deal, right? I find investors use the word, well, maybe, possibly, we might do this, this is an option. And your JV partner, every time that they hear that, they're like, they're not sure, they're not certain. Okay. So create certainty. This is option A, this is going to be option B, and this is option C. And I'm not saying that there might not be three options, which doesn't mean that I'm in la land and it's not depending, but I don't want you thinking that I don't have a backup plan to my backup plan to my backup plan. Yeah. I've thought about all of that, okay? And so you just reassure somebody knowing that, again, don't just go all sunshine and rainbows. You've got to be able to talk the hard stuff before it gets difficult, right? We're $100,000 into this property and we're over budget. We're going to be over budget because we found a foundation that we didn't know was going to need to be repaired. That's going to be another $18,000. Be able to have that conversation. It's not that anyone did anything wrong, to see that foundation leak. That's not it at all. But welcome to being an investor. Okay, nothing's guaranteed except we're going to be doing this together. So let's go.
And it purely reinforces the fact that people invest in people. They don't invest in projects. They invest with you because they know that whatever happens, whether it's a leaky roof, a bad foundation, or mayhem, Mandy's going to make the right decision.
Yep. And we'll communicate, right? Mm-hmm. I communicate via text. The other interesting thing that I do for my partners now, because I've created who I am, but they will have, I'll have strategy sessions with them. So I just chatted with somebody this week and he was like, okay, I've got this going on, this coming in, this being paid out. I'm nervous about this deal. And we've got 4 assets together. He certainly earned my time. And I'm happy to be able to strategize his entire portfolio so that I know what's going on in his brain when he's saying, hey, can we have a cash flow payment? Like, what's going on? When is renovations? Why isn't that unit filled? I kind of have an idea. He's crunching money over here on a project that's just not going the way that he thought. So he's not judging my assets. He's judging his whole portfolio. So now I've got this idea of what my JVs need on a holistic basis, not just, silo driven. We have one JV asset, that's the only one I care about. I'm like, what else is going on in your investing world so that I can understand the decisions we need to make with regards to our joint venture asset. Yeah,
and understand his thought pattern process, where he's at now. We're getting towards the end here, but I just wanted to touch on something. Is right now the market is more challenging than it's been in the last couple of years, that's for sure. And there's huge opportunities for vendor take back and balance of sales.
Yep.
And so I understand that you've done quite a few deals like that where you've been able to negotiate some substantial, it's not discounts, delayed payment. And so what's your take on it right now? And can you give us maybe an example of how it made a big difference in a transaction that you wouldn't have been able to close if that wasn't on the table?
So I'm going to make one clarity. I'm going to take off my joint venture hat right now, and I'm going to put on my VTB hat. Okay.
All right.
Because I don't do, typically, if I'm able to negotiate a large VTB, I don't do it with partners. I find a way to be able to get the money myself.
Oh, yeah.
So I had a sixplex in Barrie, Ontario. And this was in 2019. And I was trying to negotiate through my realtor to their realtor, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't working. We showed up for a viewing and I could see the owner down there. They said, that's the owner. So I go trotting on down to see Mr. Cho. And I said, Mr. Cho, would you be interested in holding a vendor take back mortgage? And he's like, oh, I'm too old to do 25 years. I can't hold 25 years. I was like, no, Mr. Cho, just 3 years. And he's like, oh, I can do 3 years. And so I negotiated a 90% VTB for 3 years with Mr. Cho because I was able to describe to him what the darn, telephone game through the realtors couldn't explain. Now, Mr. Cho literally likes to take his checks to the bank, okay? Yeah. And so every month, Mr. Cho was cashing in a check and he loved it, okay? And we're actually right now just looking at negotiating an extension just in case Mr. Cho wants to continue and he likes his checks. We're going to increase the interest rate a little bit that we're offering to him to keep it market. And so, it's the humanness to be able to do that. So we got 90% from Mr. Cho, and we found our own way to put the 10% down. And then we renovated the property because there was 2 vacant units. And actually, we've now renovated 5 of the 6 since 2019. So the building's done very well. We'll easily be able to exit finance. But, in today's landscape, we're actually wondering if there's a way that we could just pay off Mr. Cho by using equity from other assets and not go through the lending process that it's in right now. So VTBs can get very creative. You've got to be able to ask yourself, again, back to human behavior, what is it that the seller is looking for and how could a VTB satisfy what they're looking for? Yeah. If they're off the table, the multiple partners, it might not work. It might not work at all. If they're newly owned that property and they've refinanced it or they've maximized their financing, that might not work at all. No. Okay. So, I think it's really good. Start to ask yourself, open up your brain. This isn't just about you as the buyer. You have to be able to wonder, what is it that the seller might be looking for and see if you can satisfy that with the possibility of a VTB.
Yeah. And the importance, as you said, of asking the questions. Well, you're selling, like, what's the situation? And I've heard the story of like the seller actually saying, well, I need $30,000 now because I need to help pay for my daughter's wedding. But after that, you give me $3,000 a month, I'm happy. And all of a sudden it's like, whoa, we have a deal here. This is a great opportunity.
It makes sense. Absolutely. Yeah. I had a lady that I did a 10% VTB. So back in the day, please understand that times have changed. This was 2016. It was $250,000 house. CIBC gave us 80% and they registered a 10% VTB on title. So we were actually financed at 90%, 10 from the vendor, 80 from CIBC. And we only had to put a 10% down payment on this. Yeah. So we had that for 5 years. And that vendor, she was just so happy that she could pay for her car insurance for 5 years because of these VTB payments. And I thought something so simple as somebody that didn't have to worry about car payments for 5 years. And she was like, I don't know what I would have done. And it was $25,000, right? It's 10% of the purchase price. And she was like, I don't know what I would have done with it. Like, I probably would have spent it. And here I am for 5 years. I still get $25,000 at the end. Yeah. And you paid for my car insurance the whole time. And I was just like, wow.
If that's all it takes.
Ask questions. But here's the next thing. Don't just go into it thinking if they gave me a VTB, that's the only way this deal would work. If the deal doesn't work, I always ask myself, how can I buy this property? You know, is it an A lender, a B lender, C lender, hard money lender? Do I have a HELOC or a line of credit? Do I pay cash? Can I use a joint venture partner, or can I negotiate a VTB? So you kind of have to have all of the different ways to be able to ask yourself if you can buy this property. And a VTB or a joint venture are just one of the tools in your tool belt to be able to get that deal going forward.
Yeah, as you said, it's just one of the possibilities. Wow. I know we could keep going on for a long time. If people want to learn more about you, what's the best way to get in touch?
So Instagram is J_V_Queen, JV Queen, Mandy Branham, info@mandybranham.com is a good email that comes, in and around to a box that I look at. I never like to leave anybody in a JV lurch. So if you've gotten into a JV property, you're negotiating a JV deal, and you just want a second set of eyes, that's where I come in. I'm happy to be able to do it. And I kind of want to pledge. I want your audience to pledge with me here for a minute. There is so much money that is needing confident, secure, working JV experts. I need your audience's help to stand up and offer that opportunity to those money partners. 2 to 4 units in the residential space. And I'm telling you, there is so much room for everybody to be successful.
You're so right. It took me a while to realize how much money is out there looking for projects. At the beginning, I used to feel like the beggar. I have a great project. Who's going to come in with me? And it's actually the exact opposite. So you're right. And people listening to this, those aren't just words. It's true, but you have to get to that level, and you get to that level by taking action daily. So get into it. Yes.
Preach it, mister.
Yeah. Mandy, it's been a real pleasure to have you on today. Thank you so much. To anyone listening, as I said, share this episode with a friend who could benefit from this conversation. I know there's at least 3 or 5 people around you right now who could learn from Mandy. So take action. Share it. It might change their life.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mandy. We'll be in touch soon. To everyone listening, keep researching your market, make some offers. I'll talk to you next week. Thank you.